Hello, I'm Brigham Avery, and welcome to Hollywood and Ivy, where Sunset Boulevard meets Addison and Clark. The show where we get to know celebrity Cub fans from the entertainment world as we take you from Wrigley Field to the red carpet. Today we feature a Cub fan whose dedication to stage, film, television, and music is matched only by his passion for Northside baseball. An alumnus of Second City and SNL, whose film co-stars range from Arnold Schwarzenegger to Rob Lowe to Tupac Shakur. Please welcome James Belushi. Welcome back to Hollywood and Ivy. It's 2023, first episode. Jim Belushi, so great to have you here, brother.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You grew up in Wheaton, Illinois. It's
Wheaton.
a beautiful place, but it's a long way from Wrigley Field.
Well, wait a minute now.
Yeah.
We started in Humboldt Park. Okay, then
Gotcha.
we moved to Wheaton because my dad didn't want us to be in gangs.
Ah, okay.
So in Wheaton, I was the gang.
A one man?
Oh, yeah, I was the crime rate.
Very
in
nice.
Wheaton. All the stats were tied to my behavior. So I was a Chicago kid stuck in the suburbs.
My gosh.
But we were far away from Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
And my first exposure to the Cubs was actually my brother John. I was really young. And John went to Wrigley Field and saw a game. And he came back to the house with this little piece of cardboard from a popcorn box with a signature. And I said, "Who's that?" And he goes, "Bob Newhart." It was Bob Newhart.
So he met Bob Newhart at Wrigley
At
Field?
Wrigley Field. It was the biggest thing that happened in our house.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's what hooked him,
Well,
right?
I don't know what hooked him, but
Wow.
it sure hooked me. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, Bob Newhart's at the Cubs game. You know?
Unbelievable.
So I always was looking for Bob Newhart
Right.
every time I went.
So a Chicago legend met another Chicago legend
Yeah.
at Wrigley Field. Wow.
And it's funny because I saw Bob Newhart at one thing that Joe and I were at Dodger Stadium. And Bob Newhart told me that story.
Wow.
But he told me that story from John telling him that story because he really didn't remember, kid
Right.
giving an autograph. But he was a gentleman, so
Yeah,
he's a
absolutely.
good Chicago guy.
James, the first time you went to Wrigley Field and saw the stadium, your thoughts and feelings were?
Well, I was in the Cub Scouts, and so I was in Den 7.
Lucky number 7.
No, Den 7.
Right.
6 of us, 7 of us.
Right.
Remember, it was at the Bach House we used to go. And we got to go to Wrigley Field as the Cub Scouts. And that was my first time I went to Wrigley Field. So what is that, like 8, 7,
Yeah.
8? When are you in the Cub Scouts?
Yeah.
And so we went, and Brickhouse, Jack Brickhouse,
Hey.
says on the air, apparently, well, it's a great day in Wrigley Field and Chicago Cubs when Den 7 from Wheaton, Illinois comes to visit. That was it. He made us a star.
Right.
And that was really the hook. It was Brickhouse. It was the first exposure to,
It was your entertainment debut.
my debut
Yes.
was with
In the friendly confines.
Yes, and it was like, what a great marketing tool. That
Brilliant.
they have the announcers read off
yeah.
all the groups, and they were really smart back then about bringing people to the stadium, to Cubs life, to the Cubs fever. During the Second City years was when we frequented Wrigley Field the most.
Right.
Because we didn't work during the day,
Yeah.
We worked at night, and it was all day games. And we got free tickets. Joyce Sloan, I don't know how she did it, but she managed that, and we'd always go up and say hi to, Mr. Brickhouse.
Wow.
And he would always give a little plug to Second City in the theater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to go all the time. When George Wendt would go, we were all in the same company. And we'd go as a company, we'd go individually. I mean, they were always sweet to us. It was family.
Right. Did you and John both play Little League growing up, Jim?
No.
No? You didn't play Little League?
No, actually, I used to ride my banana Stingray bicycle down to the elementary school baseball diamond.
Right.
And I used to sit behind the chain fence and watch the Little League.
Oh, really?
Oh, every night.
Right.
I used to go and watch.
Uh-huh.
Batter, 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 batter. They used to say, the kids.
Oh, yeah,
say,
hey, batter, batter, batter. Yeah.
Batter, batter,
Yeah.
batter, batter. I always wanted to be part of it. No, I didn't do it. And John didn't do it. John was He was a swimmer. He did
Oh,
swimming.
really?
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
And when we were young, he was
Holy
a swimmer.
cow.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite pitcher? Did you like Milt Pappas?
Well, it wasn't Steve Stone. So,
Right.
Fergie Jenkins.
Yeah,
I mean, that,
yeah.
you know, that's going way
Right,
back. You know,
right.
but yeah, Ernie was the one. Let's play too. You know. But we used to say that in the theater because we do 2 shows on Friday and Saturday, and it was always, let's do 2, let's play 2.
Tribute to Ernie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to meet him later in the years, you know, and he was always a gentleman. And he was quite an astounding talent.
Yeah.
You know.
What was the biggest disappointing year for the Cubs? 69, 84, 2003 with Bartman. Which year really broke your heart as a fan?
You want me to pick one of those?
All of them? Whatever you'd like.
They all break your heart. What are you talking about? There's not one better than the other.
One worse than the other?
One
more
worse
painful,
than
no?
the other. I mean, it's like people say to me, well, what's your favorite movie? And I said, what do you mean? I put my heart into every movie. You know, whether it's a good movie or a bad movie, my heart is in it. It's like, you can't pick your favorite movie. It's like taking off a finger or something, you know. No.
They all hurt the same.
They were all devastating. I think I got divorced in every one of those 3 years.
It didn't end well for you or them.
You know, you just take it so personally. I don't know why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you're there every day with them, sweating and bleeding and giving your time and energy.
Love them.
November 2nd, 2016. Where were you? Were you in LA, Chicago, or perhaps Cleveland for the greatest game ever
I
played?
could have gone to Cleveland. I could have gone. I knew some guys with private jets.
Yep.
And everything. And I didn't go.
Why not?
I was scared. Do you believe that?
I do. And you know
I
what
was scared.
Yep. Joe Montaigne, you know what Joe said? The fine producer of the show, he said, I could just imagine being in Cleveland for the Cubs to lose the 7th game of the World Series. Not just do they lose, but also I'm in Cleveland.
Have you been in a stadium in a championship game when your team lost?
Many times.
Okay,
Dreadful.
I was in Miami when the Bears lost the Super Bowl, and I was standing on the sideline. But when the Blackhawks won in Boston,
That was awesome.
I
2013.
got down on the ice. Yeah,
Nice.
and
They
I
scored
have a
2.
photograph of myself on the ice with the players and all the yellow seats of Boston Stadium. You know, probably the greatest group of gentlemen.
The Boston Bruins fans?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. Well, listen, I've been everywhere: Cleveland,
Yeah.
Detroit, and
Oh, yeah.
Cleveland.
Well, I'm
I won't
taking
go
your
to
word
Cleveland.
for it,
I won't go
Jim.
to Cleveland again.
Right.
By the way, but I was sitting in the middle of Boston fans, and right up here was a box. Gordie Howe was in it.
Oh, yeah.
Right here. And every time Boston scored, Belushi, Belushi, right? Good-hearted guys.
Right.
And at that end, in that last, minute, 17 seconds, those
right.
2 goals, right? It was over. The world stopped. And every one of those people stood up, shook my hand, said congratulations. It was one of the best series we've seen in hockey. They were just beautiful people.
Is your son a big Cubs fan? Does he play Little League?
He was terrible. Oh, actually, no, wait. My first son was terrible.
Okay.
My second son, Jared, was actually pretty good. He had a good swing.
Nice.
But he didn't keep going with it.
Wow.
But that time, people, it's really hard to describe what it's like to perform. But there is a moment between a line, the audience laughing, and that wait till you deliver the next line, right? That moment, you can't describe what goes on in your body. It's pure presence, it's pure adrenaline. It's just being with your body. It's a beautiful moment. It's what I call magic. And I chase the magic, right? I love chasing the magic. And sitting in Wrigley Field 216, that feeling was there all the time because it was magic. Right. And there's magic in that stadium. And there's magic with the Cubs, and that's what keeps my hope alive. And I'm always chasing the Magic, and I'm always chasing the Cubs.
And we'll be back with more Jim Belushi on Hollywood and Ivy after this. Welcome back to Hollywood and Ivy. Today we're visiting with James Belushi. James, was your system of beliefs rebuilt in 2016? Was all that's lost found after that?
Yeah, it was different. It wasn't about washing pain away. It was just more about that feeling of magic. Mm-hmm. It's just about hard work. It's about ensemble, people believing in each other that make something beautiful.
Right.
You know, it's like with acting, you know, you get the right cast together, and it's like a band, you know.
Right, the chemistry.
You're jamming and you're giving to each other, and
Yeah.
You know, in comedy, it's like you get the joke, right? I got the assist.
That's right.
We did it together, man.
You know, it's like an alley-oop Jordan to Pippen or Pippen to Jordan.
Yeah, it's like
right?
that. It's like that for me. It's like that. I mean, that's where Joe and I came from. You know, that Chicago ensemble belief, and then we bring that into our work and into our daily life.
The undeniable passion.
Passion is a good word.
Absolutely. You just talked
Juice.
about,
I call it juice. Give me the juice.
talk about a great cast. 40 years ago, Jim, Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, Jamie Lee Curtis, James Belushi, Trading Places. What was making Trading Places like?
Well, it was my first. No, it wasn't my first movie. I did a movie called Thief. James Caan, Robert Prosky, one of the greatest.
Michael Mann directed that, right?
Yeah, Michael, his first movie.
Wow.
Yeah,
Before Vice.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was super cool.
Right. But Trading Places.
Trading Places was. I was depressed and, you know, a really kind of funky spot. You know, John had passed not too long before that. And I was at my dad's little ranch up in the mountains of Julian, California, and I was sitting on the couch, and I got a call from John Landis. He said, "Why don't you come to New York and do this?"
The great John Landis.
Yeah, do this monkey gorilla.
That's right, the gorilla.
It was so great because it was like, oh, I'm in a movie, and it was a week, so it had to be shot on Friday. Every Friday there was this huge snowstorm. So I was there for 4 weeks. I got paid for 4 weeks. I had per diem for 4 weeks. I had a ball. Jamie Lee Curtis was really cute.
Yeah.
And she was so nice to me, you know. She called me Jimmy.
Nice.
You know, and Danny was there, and I loved New York. And I'm still getting residuals because I had 4 weeks on that thing. I made $10,000 in that movie. That was great. Yeah. And then John Landis was so embarrassing because I went to see the movie and it, you know, has everybody's name, and he puts James Belushi. I mean, letters this big on the screen. It was like, jeez, I just had a small part, John. You know,
right.
Put it on there for you.
Yeah, there's no small parts.
Yeah. He was good. So I loved it. You know.
Yeah. 1988. You're in a movie, the first movie that goes in films in Russia, opposite Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh yeah,
Red Heat. That was you had great chemistry. You guys were hilarious together.
Yeah.
What was that like? And would you consider making a sequel?
Yeah, make a sequel. I love Arnold.
Yeah.
I was dieting and I was running and I was, I was looking pretty good. And I got on the set and he was like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be a pudgy Chicago cop, right?" He had a trailer and the door was always open.
Yeah.
And he had Haagen-Dazs ice cream and big cookies on that little table.
Wow. And they were calling your name.
Every time I walked by, "Jim, come on in. What are you doing?" And I'd start eating. I was like, "He looks lean."
My plan worked perfectly.
It worked perfectly.
Absolutely. Go back to the chopper.
Yeah. He was a gentleman. Again, another wonderful person that I got to work with.
Jim, About Last Night, 1986, a classic Chicago movie. And you and Rob Lowe had classic chemistry and that very funny. What was it like filming that with Rob in that period in Chicago in the 80s?
Well, I had done the play at the Apollo Theater, Sexual Perversity in Chicago.
Right.
It was a 60-minute play. And Jim Kazurinsky and Denise DeClue, the movie ended up being an hour, 50 minutes. So they wrote quite a bit.
Right.
I was fortunate that a lot of my scenes were lifted right from David's play.
So you're familiar.
And I had the character down.
Yeah.
You know, I knew the character. And I got in a couple fights with the director, Ed. One was, I was doing the scenes, and he would go, pick it up. And I go, no, I know where the laughs lay on this. I'm leaving this. He goes, Jim, look, when you're on stage, your eye goes from this character, and your head turns and goes to this character. He goes, that takes time. And that's good that you do those pauses. On film, nothing moves but the eyes. Pick it up. I went, that was smart. So I picked it up. And he really directed me into a great performance, Ed.
It's a great homage to Chicago and everything. They show the restaurants, you guys, the bars and everything. It's so true. They really capture the essence, guys. Right?
Well, that was when Rob wore a No Lights in Wrigley Field t-shirt.
Yep, absolutely.
I was like, all right.
Yeah, the yellow one.
Yeah, the yellow and red, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the time of, when did the lights go in? Right.
1988.
88,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
Michael Keaton also wore one of those in a movie called Touch and Go.
He played that character, that non-committal character, beautifully. And by the way, the things that I was doing in that show, David is all about rhythms.
Right.
It's all music. You know, you're jamming with a bass player when you're doing it. Rob was right there.
Right on.
I mean, I had to show him a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
But he was right there in that rhythm, man. He kept it. I dispel all that.
I was laughing a second ago because you actually say that in the movie. They say, you know, you were too good looking.
Too good looking.
The best thing that could happen to you is a chemical accident.
Industrial accident.
Industrial accident.
Sorry to correct you.
No, not at all, Jim. But that's a great line.
If Joey would have done that, I wouldn't have corrected him. But you are correct.
I understand. I understand. And stick around. We'll be back with more with Jim Belushi on Hollywood and Ivy after this. Welcome back to Hollywood and Ivy, where Sunset Boulevard meets Addison and Clark. Today, Jim Belushi has joined us. So, Jim, let's talk about the best movie you ever made. I know you don't pick one, but the best, and that favorite Cub fan movie, Taking Care of Business.
Oh, well,
you
that
play
one,
a guy,
Taking Care of Business.
Right. You break out of prison to go see the Cubs in the World Series.
Yeah, well, that was another battle. They wanted me to do this movie, but it was the Cleveland Indians.
Oh, really? They picked the Indians at first?
Yeah.
Wow.
I said, I read the script and I said.
And they went to you with that, knowing you're from Chicago?
They went to me with it, and I said, you know,
right.
I'm a method actor. I don't think I can really get into the Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
Can you make it the Cubs? And they said to me, this isn't a fantasy movie.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. Oh,
no,
they said,
were giving me a hard time. Right. We're not doing a fantasy.
Right.
They changed it to the Cubs.
Wow.
Yeah, it was good.
Right. Is that the first time you met Charles Grodin? Because the two of you in that.
Yes, it was the first time.
And, he was hilarious.
Yeah. Well, he was, you know, from a comic actor standpoint, point of view, he was the comic actor's comic actor. He was a funny man. Absolutely. And I loved him because he was obsessive. Then we'd sit in the dressing room, you know, in the makeup room, and we'd be putting on makeup, and he'd come with little pieces of paper, and he would talk about maybe moving this word over here and this joke over here.
Right.
And, well, you know, I think it's better than this. I'm like, yeah, man. Yeah. So it was really great. We were really intense on the scenes we did together. You know, another, he was brilliant.
You did a commercial promoting that movie with Mark Grace.
I directed it.
You did?
Yeah.
That was a hilarious commercial. My God.
And
apologize for what? 1984. I wasn't on the team.
Yeah.
How are you going to make up? I'm going to hit a home run in your new movie, Taking Care of Business. That's a hilarious commercial. What was it like working with Mark Grace? Because he's also in the movie. He's got a cameo. It's a home run.
Yeah. I asked for that.
Wow.
Yeah. They put him in. Yeah.
That's great. So that was your idea.
The Mark,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Cubs.
The Cubs,
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it was a great experience.
Who inspired your passion, Jim, for life?
Necessity is the word.
You need to be passionate.
I needed the passion. I needed the distraction. I needed the love. I am classic in the sense where I fill and don't feel. I keep moving. Because if I slow down a little bit, I'll start thinking about all the things that I don't want to think about.
Right.
Through someone's life, there's lots of different moments of grief, not just my brother's passing, but, family things and, losses along the way.
Oh, yeah.
And I just keep moving. And I just keep the magic in front of me. And I chase the magic. And that's why I love the Cubs, and that's why I love the Bears, and I love the Blackhawks, and because they have hope, and I chase that hope, and I just keep moving forward. Because I'll get really bogged down otherwise,
Yeah.
I mean, just now in my life, I'm able to sit. Otherwise, I don't sit. I'm just moving. I got 5 projects going all the time, and just keep thinking, so it's a need. It's a need. It's a need for that moment I described earlier between the line delivery, the audience laugh, and your next line, that moment.
That uncertainty.
I guess when you're present in your body, there is uncertainty.
Yeah. You're being in the moment.
In the moment.
Absolutely.
And acting and music. I do a lot of music.
Yeah.
With the Blues Brothers and Danny. That was a gift. Danny gave me a gift there, bringing me into the Blues Brothers. It just brings you in the moment. It's beautiful. It's the feeling, not feeling. You just love it. You just chase it.
Do you enjoy being a musician and performing as much as you enjoy acting?
Yeah. I enjoy the music. I enjoy being in a band. I got an 11-piece band. I mean,
right, yeah.
I got 3 horns, B3 organ, 2 guitar players, backup singers, harmonica, drums, bass, and Danny and me. And it's like getting onto an F-16 when those guys start that downbeat and we just take off. I mean, for me, it's a combination of everything I've done. There's humor in it. There's rhythms. It's like being on Broadway doing a Broadway musical, but you don't have to do 8 shows. It's live, so it's community, it's present, it's in the moment. Danny just watches me on stage. One time he just started staring at me, running around, dumping and kicking and stuff. He goes, "You're like the Warner Brothers leaping frog. Where do you get this energy?" It's just so in the moment. I love playing music. And it's the same principles in acting too. It's like, I did a movie with Tupac Shakur.
I was going to ask about that. Gang related.
Tupac is a
related.
musician, you know. He's an actor, but he's a musician, and I'm a musician. And when I was acting with him, we never talked about the scenes. We would just start in action.
Yeah.
And I would kind of take the lead in it. And I'd, be a little firmer, a little louder, maybe a little quicker. And he was like a bass player. He would just go right underneath, right? It's like, whoa.
He's right there with you.
Oh my God, this guy's cool, man.
Wow.
And then the second take, I would lay back, and he could hear that, and he would kind of take the lead, and then I would kind of fill. And then by the third take, we were like trading riffs, and he was beautiful to work with. Musician.
Right.
And when I was at Second City, our piano player would play behind every scene. And he basically taught us comic rhythms through his music. So everything's been musical for me.
Yeah. When you met and worked with Tupac, there were so many things that were said about him, like he could be a political leader, he could be a huge movie star, he could do anything. Did you get that sense about him? Was there a real special essence about him when you worked with him and knew him?
Well, it's different when you're on a set. It's like you create a persona out there, in the world. But, you walked on the set, he was an actor,
Right.
He knew all his lines. Gentleman.
Yeah.
Showed up on time. We had great talks in the trailer. We tried to write some songs together. Actually.
Oh, wow, you did?
Yeah. Well, he didn't know anything about Frank Sinatra.
Really?
I was like, come on, man, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Then I brought the Golden Years CD.
You brought him, so you and Tupac was with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I was playing, Fly Me to the Moon,
Right.
and
He never heard that?
No.
Wow.
No, and so I said, what?
He must have heard New York, New York. He heard New York.
No, I don't know about that. But
Wow.
the point is that he didn't know that song, and we would listen to it. And I said, look, there's a way to do a rap in this. I know it. You know how they're breaking into songs
Right.
now.
Wow.
Fly Me to the Moon.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
And he said, yeah. So we were starting to think about writing a Fly Me to the Moon.
This is amazing.
With the rap. And then he came back like a week later and he goes, can't do it. I said, why? He goes, it's too beautiful, melodically. What's the word?
Melodically. Yeah, you had it.
It was too beautiful melodically, and his voice, he said, you can't break it.
Right.
So we
Wow.
let it go, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, he loved it. He loved
Wow.
it.
The Cubs have made some amazing additions to their team. They've really improved, and I wonder what your feeling and thoughts are and your sense of this team going into 2023.
They're going to win the
James.
World Series. They're going to go all the way. What do you think?
I love it.
You have any doubt?
None at all. Not
right.
after that. None
Then
at all.
let's stop this
All right,
conversation.
perfect. It's been so great having you, James. This has been a magical, wonderful experience. I want you to know here on Hollywood Ivy, as I say, we don't have a guest book, but we do have a guest ball.
Oh.
So I'm going to throw this to you.
Oh, gee.
Nice catch, brother.
Yeah, let
Yeah.
me see if I have a pen.
Yeah.
Of course I have
Oh, my
a
God,
pen.
of course. Yes, magic of television.
Right, look at
James
that.
Belushi. Maybe right next to Odenkirk or
Wherever you'd like.
wherever you want. Jim, it's been so great having you. Thank you so much. Go Cubs. The Cubs will sing with glee in 23.
There you go.
It's been
I like
wonderful
that.
having you on Hollywood and Ivy. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Tune in next time where Sunset Boulevard meets Addison and Clark.
You better get ready for a brand new day. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. They're singing, go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go! Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs are gonna win today. Go Cubs, go! Go Cubs, go!
Hollywood and Ivy was filmed live at Universal Studios in Hollywood, California. Hollywood and Ivy is a presentation of Brigham Avery Productions.